So, shifting now from science to one of its offspring, technology, let me introduce you to this week's interview. Grayson Earle is a political technologist, if you will. He uses mediums such as video games, video projection, robotics, and things I just clearly don't understand, right out of the gate, like algorithmic audio-visual generation, to promote messages of socio-political change. Perhaps the most well-known or often seen of these iterations is the Illuminator project. As stated on their site, the Illuminator seeks to smash the myths of the information industry and shine a light on the urgent issues of our time. Last week, I sat down with Grayson to talk about the Illuminator project, collaborative efforts in creative activism, and the role of technology in change. Take a look. Talk a little bit about the role of technology with this political activism.
In a lot of ways, I see technology as important in helping us to circumvent certain laws or restrictions. For example, we did this project in Montreal with the Illuminator, where it was after the student movement, and the city had put these laws in place. One of them is known as P6, which stipulated that you could only have, less than 50 people at a protest. And the way around that was you had to give the police your route and a list of all the people that are going to be involved. And anyway, if you broke this law, you would charge $500 or something. And so we created a virtual protest. We projected it into the streets that had more than 50 people. And there's no way to sort of create laws against that, or there aren't any laws against it yet because it's technology and it's new. So it's sort of able to happen. In general, it helps us to get around certain things. It's a way of, trespassing and putting a message onto a building when the owner doesn't want it to be there. But there's no way for them to sort of tell us no, because it's sort of categorized under free speech, at least at this moment. And we're currently involved in a lawsuit against the NYPD because they arrested a few of us for doing this one time at the Metropolitan Museum during the inauguration of David H. Koch's Plaza statue out there. They basically arrested us on the grounds that we were doing illegal advertising, but it was clear to us that, we didn't stand to gain anything commercially from what we were doing, and we didn't permanently affix anything to the structure, so it was free speech.
So I'm just curious, how you feel about the issue of whether that be the NSA or the FBI or just government officials in general encroaching on the technological free speech aspect of things.
Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. I guess I see it as a new kind of site to contest. It's interesting, much in the way that, a bunch of people got together and occupied Wall Street. Now there's all these opportunities to sort of occupy these areas that we're not supposed to. For example, there are, and I mean that in the sense of areas we're not supposed to occupy online. So there's a list of words that the NSA and Department of Homeland Security created to sort of as something to comb through online communications and searches with. After the Boston Marathon bombing, there's this woman in Boston who got a visit from the FBI because she searched for backpack and pressure cooker on the same day. So these lists are in use. And so there's a project that I worked on called the NSA Haiku Generator that sort of asked people to make poems out of these words and then tweet them out. And it sort of acted as a way to saturate the internet with these sensitive search terms and, thereby sort of grind the surveillance apparatus to a halt, at least momentarily. So I think it's, the creative response should be to just kind of do things that we're not supposed to, right? It's sort of what protest is in general. So now we have ways to do that online, and we have to think about more of them, I think.
So in that idea of this NSA haiku generator that you created, you've also created some apps, like the ones that you can get off of the Illuminator website. Talk a little bit about these apps and what they're used for.
We try and open source all of our software, and we have a couple of things. Most of them deal with projection, and we do this because there's other projection groups around the United States that we're in communication with, and that they're often like sort of how do we get started and all this stuff. And a lot of the software that's out there costs money, so we make sort of free versions, and they just allow you to like do things that are as basic as, if you're parked across the street but at an angle from the building, you can still project onto that building and see a nice square. To other things that are a little more advanced, like the People's Pad is this software that allows you to sort of write on a piece of paper and then have that be projected onto a wall. If there's any way to show a video of this, it would be really helpful because it's hard to explain. But it kind of allows you to write, it almost looks like someone writing a comic book entry or something, and it goes onto the building. And like with that project in Montreal, we created this thing called the protest generator. So you can like record people on a green screen and then like have a sign making party and sort of like attach the signs to the signs they're holding against the green screen and have them like walk around and like have this protest with sort of any text that you want.
So I'm also curious, you've done everything from, the Koch brothers to the gentrification to the Snowden bust. How do you decide what you're going to be working on? And like, is it based on how easily you can translate that into a few words or an image?
Yeah, I guess it's not so much about if it'll be easy, but just kind of, so much has to do with timing. And if we can respond quickly to something, that's when it seems to jive with people like on social media and in real life. Like they have a really visceral reaction to it, or like an emotional reaction to it, as do we. So if that's possible, then we do that. But a lot of stuff is planned, and it's just kind of like a lot of unions and activists in the New York scene are aware of us, and so they'll kind of let us know if they've got something coming up. And then if we have the time and the people are available, then we'll just sort of do it if we agree with their politics.
So finally, on the website, there's sort of like a pay it forward mentality. The like how to write ups and the apps. Why is that like an important part of your work to have this sort of like, now you guys go do it?
Yeah, I think because it's like, we try not to. Originally, we were like really adamant about not calling ourselves artists, and I think that this plays into it because it's not about like us. It's just about the movement, and so we want to equip as many people as possible to be able to do this kind of like counter advertising, like counter spectacle work as possible, and like imagining like a 50 city simultaneous projection on one particular issue is like really I think one of the things that we're after in the future, and it would be great if we could help facilitate that in any way by getting people the right equipment, the right software, the right ideas, like the right graphics, whatever they need. So that's why we try and sort of open source what we do.
To learn more about Grayson and his work, check out GraysonEarle.com. And for more on the Illuminator, check out theilluminator.org.